Hi, welcome to this tutorial on integrating Google Authentication in your .NET 8 Blazor Interactive Server application. Today we'll dive into how easy it is to enable users to log in with their Google account. Imagine simplifying sign-ups, streamlining logins, and improving your app security, all while making it more user-friendly. With Google Authentication, users can quickly access your app using credentials they trust without needing to remember yet another password. No. Not only does this enhance security by leveraging Google's robust authentication protocol, but it also boosts your application's appeal by offering a smooth, familiar login experience. So let's get started on making your Blazor app more accessible and secure with Google Authentication. Let's first create a project, and which is going to be Blazor Interactive Server render mode. Once we have our application created, let's go and install the authentication.google NuGet package. Aside from installing these packages, we're going to be adding database. So we need these three packages: EF-call, we need tools, and also SQLite. If you want to use SQL Server, then install SQL Server. Let's install these packages as well. Alright, so you can see that from here, we're able to install all the packages that we will need. When you check your project description or details, you can see that from here, that is the properties. You can see you have your Google, you have the EF Core, SQLite, and our tools. Great. Now we need to go and create our DB context since we're going to implement database. But before we do that, we need our model. So let's go and create our app user model. So these are the properties that we need for Google Authenticated user. Maybe you'll be asking yourself, why no password? Yes, because you don't need to handle the password. The password will be handled by Google. So all that we need here, it is a claim that we can use anytime that you want to authenticate this user in our component. So we're going to add row. So we need row, email, name, and an ID. Aside from there, we're going to create our constant, which contains our scheme. That is what we're going to be using to authenticate this user. After we have this scheme created, the next thing that we're going to do here is register this service. So let's go ahead and register database service and also authentication service for cookie and Google as well. And we need to create our DB context file before we can register this. So let's go ahead and undo that. Apart from there, we need to create a database table for the app user model that we created. Now let's go ahead and register our services here. So we are creating our database service with an SQLite. So you can specify this connection string in the app settings, and I'll reference it over here. But since we want to make this simple, that's the reason why we are passing it straightforward here. Now let's go and register our cookie service and also the Google service. So that is what we need to do after adding our database connection. You can see from here we are adding cascading authentication state, and this is going to help our route component to authenticate our component. Aside from that, we register our authentication state provider, which contains or which get access to the authenticated user details. So we are adding authentication, and here we're going to specify cookie. We need a scheme, so we specify that. We need the cookie name, and we did that in the constant file. Aside from that, we're going to add Google, and here we're going to specify default authentication scheme from Google. And in that, we need to specify some options, and options contain the client ID, secret ID, and this access denied path. So this is going to be a component path that we're going to specify as a route in the component in case the user cancels the request to authenticate himself with Google. Then this path is going to be called. All right, so we need, after that, we need to use authentication and authorization pipelines. So let's add them. So the next thing that we need to do after registering this service here is to get our client ID and our client secret. And we can get it from the console.developers.google.com. That is where we need to create project. We need to specify some settings in there and try to connect it to our Blazor application that we are creating here. So let's check it out. So go to console.cloud.google.com, and that is where I have in here. Try to log in. As you can see, I have logged in. So try to log in your account. Now, when you log in, you come to the project, and here you're going to select the project. Maybe I'll make this link available in the video description, so you can just click on it straight if you cannot type, you cannot see this well. It is just console.cloud.google.com. Now let's create projects. So here I have no project here, so I'm going to create a new project. Now specify the name of this project. So this is going to be Blazor Demo Blazor Auth. So no organization, or I can specify organization, location, and etc. We want to make this simple, so this okay. Let's create that. Now when we are done, we need to go to this auth consent screen, and we need to also configure some settings in there to make this work. So in here, let's choose an external because we want to connect to an external, and let's create this. Let's specify the app name, Demo Blazor Auth. And now here we need to use an email. So I have this email over here, and maybe I can grab a copy, and you can include the app logo and the domain and etc. You can add all this. Let's add developer email. That is what matters. So let's save this. After that, from here, we can add scope, things that you need as a claims from the Google server. And also, let's save and continue. Let's add user. Now, this user here is going to be used for testing. So let me add this. There's going to be the user that I'm going to be using. And let's click on add. Okay. So now it has been added. We can go to, there's a user. Let's see, save and continue. And the next thing that we're going to do here is a summary of what we've done so far. Let's click on. So we can go back to the dashboard, and we are here. And the next thing that we're going to do here is go to our credentials. We need to create credentials for this. So we'll go to credentials. And in here, we're going to be using this oAuth 2.0 client IDs. So click on create credential. And here, instead of choosing an API key, choose this oAuth client ID as said earlier on. And the next thing I'm going to do here is select application type. You know, this is a web app, so definitely this I'm going to go for. This is Blazor Demo Auth. That is the name. And here we're going to add authorize redirect URL. So let's add that. And here it's going to be HTTPS and localhost. What is the port? So we're going to have any port of 7025. Then we're going to have sign in Google. So it means our app that we are going to create should have the port of 7025. We don't want to do that since we have the app already. Just go in there to app, then check the solution, go to properties, line settings, and I watch it up. You can see from the HTTPS, it is running on port of 7246. So we can grab this. Then let's paste it here. Great. So after we are done with this, you can add more, but I think this is okay. So let's click on create to get this created. So creating app in Google Console is quite simple. You need few steps to do it. Now we have our client ID, we have our client secret. So let's grab our client ID. Let's go to application. And in here in the program CS file, you can also put it in the user secret or app settings. But well, we can pass it straight forward here. This client ID. So I'll paste the client ID here. Then the next thing here to go for it is a client secret. So I can also copy the secret. Then go to the application and paste the secret here. So we are good. The next thing that we need to do here is to specify the sign-in scheme. So let's do it. After we are done with this, let's go and create our login page, and that is where we're going to challenge with the Google Authentication, so you can redirect to the authentication, and this is going to be happening in the package that we installed. So let's make sure we make a reference to that and make it work. So in here, we're going to be using cascading parameter for HTTP context. Since it's going to cut across the whole application, we can get access to it. And in there, when the page initializes, we want to create an authentication properties. Now, this redirect URI that we're going to specify here is going to work, or is going to redirect to after successful login using the Google account. So after user has logged in, we want to go to this page, and that is where we can get our claims. We can process it, and in case we want to save it to database and do all sorts of things, we can do it in there. And in here, we need to specify challenge. That's where we specify our auth properties with our schema as well. Now we execute it. So after this, this is going to redirect to the Google account for the login. After successful login, let's handle the response or the returns. So this is what we're doing from here. You can see we are still using the HTTP context, so we can get access to the current user if it is authenticated or not. Now we're going to check if the user is authenticated when the page renders, that is when the page initializes. We want to check in case user is not authenticated, so you can see we are negating it, and we're going to say return. But in case the user is authenticated, then we want to extract the name, because with Google is going to return the response with its claims. And these claims, you can have a name, you can have a given name, you can have an email. So you want to extract the name and then the email. Now when you have this, since you want to keep track of this user, maybe the user has a specific role and now trying to sign with Google. Google is not having the row attached, so we need to go to database now, make sure we have this user data in there, and now try to get the row, and then we can re-sign again and pass on the row, authenticate the component with this authentication state. So let's see how to. And we're going to get the user from the database. I'm going to check if user is equal to null, it means user not found. Then we're going to add it. But in case it is, then we're going to sign in. Let's do that. So when you have a look from here, we first want to get the user from database. In case user is null, then we want to get the whole list. The reason why we're doing that is we want to switch between the row of admin and user. We're having two row state in the application. Now, if the first person is the one registering, then or logging in, then we're going to assign the admin row, else going to be user. So we want to get and search over here. Start from that, we try to check if the count here is greater than or equal to 0. It means that is the first person registering. Then let's assign admin. Else, it's going to be row. We're going to add to the table and also save changes. Now, the next thing to do here is we're going to search for this. The reason why we are doing that is we want to get this user ID so we can use it in our claims formation. Let's do that. And now here too, we want to get a user. So in case we have the user from the database, we now can have access to the user ID. Maybe you might be asking yourself, why did we not use this? Yes, we can, because here we cannot use it because when the user search, when the database gets searched with this email and it is not found, that's why we want to do this. So here it means user is not found. And maybe you might also be saying that, well, then why do you have to call this? Yes, we want to call so we can get access to this ID. You know that here with an EF call, it seeds as soon as we add a user, it's going to increment the ID by 1. So here we are not having an ID, and therefore we cannot specify, we cannot get this ID. So we can get this ID only when we make a search from database after this has been saved. And that is what we're doing to collect our claims. So currently we have these are the claims that we have, and that is what we're going to use to re-sign in the user. Okay, so aside from this, we need to create identity claims, and also we need to create our claims principal, and then we can sign in using this HTTP context and navigate to the home page when you are done. Let's finish with that. So that is what we're doing. Now you can see from here, after creating our identity, since we have our claims here, we can go ahead and create our identity. After I create identity, we need to create our principal, which takes in the identity that we have already specified. And then we can sign in, which takes in the scheme, and also the principal, which takes in the identity. After that, you can navigate to any page at all that you want. By here, we want to navigate to the home page. That is what we're doing here. Okay, so after we are done with this, the next thing that we can do here is to create our access denied, because when you check our program.cs file, you can see that we have a page that is when user stop the process, you should navigate to this page. So let's do it. The next thing that we need to do is to create our logout page so that we can add logout, because since we have login, definitely here you're going to have logout. So let's do it. So if you are still signed out, navigate to the home page. You can navigate to login if you want to do that. After we are done with this, we need to go in and authorize the component. Remember that we have added authentication parameter service, so we need to go in there and protect the route. So check from solution, you go to the component and now the route, and here make it as authorized route view. After we are done with this, let's go and authorize the component that we have. So we can look up for maybe the login or the home page, and in the home page we can check if this user is authenticated or not. And even from this counter page we can also check, we can add this attribute of authorize. So this will make sure that user is authorized or login before he can access this. And grab same to the counter, or maybe the weather component. And let's check the login. So from the home page, we want to see if login. And in case it is, you want to say you authenticated, you want to get all the claims that we have processed. So let's see how we can work with that. Okay, so this is what we are doing from here. You know, if you're authorized and you have the role of admin, we want to display this. But in case you are not, then you want to display this when you are a user, because you are switching between an admin and the user role. Now here, we're going to use an authorized view to check if you're authenticated. That is, if you're authorized, you're authenticated. And in that, we want to grab these claims. We want to get all the claims. So you can see from here, we want to get the name, that is an ID, the given name, the email, and then the role that we set when logging in. And in case you are not, then you want to display you are not authenticated. Let's build this application and run it, and I think this is going to solve this issue. But before that, after building, we need to update or create our migration before we can run this and check it out. You see that all succeeded, so we can close all components here. Then we can open this again to see whether that issue is solved. Okay, still persists, but there's no issue. Maybe unless we run it and see. All right, so let's go in there and add migration. So pull up your package manager console. Yeah, so that is done. Now let's go and run this application and check it out. Okay, so we are in here, and initially it is saying that you are not authenticated. Right click and go to inspect element and go to cookie, that is from application section. And I'll check the cookie over here. You will see we don't have any netcode scheme cookie added because we are not logged in. Now we need to log in here, but you see we are not having a login. We need to go and add. So this is coming from the layout, and we have our nav menu. So we can make a copy of this and make it as login and logout. And then that we need to surround it with size attribute. So all that I'm doing here is to have this authorized view. Then if in case you're authorized, I copied one of this and I name it as logout. That is when you're authorized. But in case you are not, then you go to login, and that is the href login with the name as login with Google, right? And there's logout. So namespace, we need to use a namespace. That is Microsoft.ASP.NET Core.Component.Authorization. So let's make sure we have this also referenced on top. Okay. So I think we have an issue here unless we restart this application to make sure this is gone. Otherwise, it's still going to work. So let's rerun this and check it out. All right, so you can see from here, we have this login with Google. Since we are not logged in, that is the reason why we are not having this logout. As soon as we log in, we're going to see the logout. So click on this, now check it out. So that is login, and now it is navigating to Google. And now it is saying that there is this account, choose an account to continue on to this app that we created. And now this is my account. I click on this, and maybe you could see that is a consent. It will require me to click on continue. If I click on cancel here, let's see what's going to happen. Now it's going to go to my cancel page and I'll say login access denied. Let's do it again. While it gets access to it again from over here, now choose an account and click on continue and I'll check it out. I'm going to see the home page with the claims that I have saved in database. But while we're having an issue here, God is saying that sign async is authenticated is false, not allowed. When authentication property is required, signing is true. Okay, so it means here we need to fix this. And it's coming from our login. No, that's an after login component. Here. Let's go in there and check it out. That is after login, when login successfully happened, then here when we're trying to sign in, that is where we need to correct it. I think this issue is coming from this line. The reason why we are having this issue here is we need to specify the our scheme, and we forgot to do that. Okay, so the operation was successful. You were able to log in as a user, but one is redirecting us and I'm re-logging in application, authenticate ourselves with the claims. That is where the issue happened. So this is going to be solved. Now let's redo this. So we are not authenticated. Now let's log in with Google again. Let's check it out. So we see here we have after logged in, it goes to our login page. So you can see we are logged in. Now if I click on home, let's see what will happen here. This time around, it's working, but we are not having, when I click on home, we are having an issue, a breakpoint, and it is saying a continue on. We're having this object reference not set again. Let's go and check it. Maybe we made some mistake. Now let's go to after login. Now we check here from here if user is null. It's doing all this and I'm saving it. But in case user is not null, oh, that's where the issue is coming from. I think this should be moved out. They should move out of this. So when you check here, if user is null after it is done saving, this should work for both if user is null or not null. This should work for them. And let's move it out from that if null block. Okay. I'm sure for now we should not get an issue again. Let's check it out. Okay, so maybe let's continue with this. Let's try to clear the cookie from here. Application. Let's remove this. Okay. And let's do it again. So we are logged. Yeah, we are logged out. Let's log in. And then logged in. Let's see. Yeah, so we have it. This is our cookie that we have it over there. And we see you're admin. So hello, you are admin and you are authenticated. There's an ID of 2. And now that is the name. There's an email and that is my role. We can just go to the solution. And now in here, we can open this database. When you open it, the browser. If I refresh this, we see we have this an ID of 2. We have the name and then the email and then that is the role. So anybody who's trying to access this account again or who's trying to access this application with the sign in Google service, then it's going to assign a default role of user. Admin should be 1 because the count here should be 0. 4 admin will be assigned. All right, so thank you for watching this video and don't forget to subscribe for more Blazor and .NET content. Happy coding and see you in the next video.